Hi, everyone. Welcome to the GoldFIsh Report. I'm your host, Louisa. Today is Tuesday, January 14th, 2020. Now, I am doing the POTUS report for the first week of January today, and I'm also going to be doing the second POTUS report of January today as well. And the reason being is because the first week there wasn't really a lot happening. So that was for week 154 POTUS report. That's what I'm going to be presenting right now, starting with January 1st. There wasn't a lot of press over the holidays from the president, from the White House. Very little things that I posted. Not that they're insignificant little, I don't mean it that way. I just mean that it was very quiet. There was holiday time and there was events going on down at Mar-a-Lago. And of course, the one big news obviously is the military strike against Solomani. I've been talking about this quite extensively in our new program. Now, just realize POTUS reports for the new year, we started out separating. We kind of decided that the POTUS reports were going to be done separately, that I was going to present them separately, just strictly relating to the president and presidential policy. And the remainder of the reports now are going to be titled, I'm sorry, the political reports are going to be titled Political Theater with, of course, my uh, my co-host Jim Fetzer. So that's going to be called Political Masterpiece Theater or Political Theater. We're using both terms actually. And let's get started. So this is a POTUS report. This is week 154. And I'm going to start screen sharing what some of the news releases were for that period of time. This is the president's remarks before New Year's Eve celebration at Mar-a-Lago on December 31st. All this was posted, by the way, on Twitter and on the GoldFIsh Report Twitter page, and also on our blog, and of course on our Facebook news page. But this is some questions that the press had for the president. And okay, so here, what do you want the American people to know, Mr. President, about how you're handling the situation in Iraq as it relates to Iran? And he said, well, I think it's being handled very well. The Marines came in and we had some great warriors come in and do a fantastic job. And they were instantaneously, as soon as we heard, I used the word immediately, and they came immediately. And it's in great shape. As you know, this will not be a Benghazi. Benghazi should never have happened. This will never be a Benghazi. So at this point in time, we only knew about the attack on the embassy. And so at this point, this is where this point in time is, this press release is. Um, President does not believe, does not foresee going to war with Iran. It wouldn't last very long, and he doesn't think it's a good idea. He says, I want to have peace. I like peace, and Iran should want peace more than anybody. So I don't see that happening, the president says here. And he doesn't think Iran wants that to happen either. So they're also asking about North Korea, and the president said, I have a very good relationship with Kim Jong-un. I know he's sending out certain messages about Christmas presents, and I hope his Christmas present is a beautiful vase. That's what I'd like, a vase. And I think people saw some picture of Kim Jong-un riding on a white horse somewhere, so I don't know if that was a pony gift. I don't know. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe it was a meme. Who knows? Okay. Yeah. So here we go, going into talking about, but he did sign a contract. He did sign an agreement talking denuclearization, and that was signed. Number one sentence, denuclearization. So he says that was done in Singapore, and he thinks he's a man of his word, and we're going to soon find out if he's a man of his word. So talking about impeachment, the president, has always stood by. He says, well, the impeachment thing is a hoax. It's a big fat hoax. We had, I guess, 196 to nothing with the Republicans. We had 3 Democrats come over. One actually joined our party, as you know, which is, I think, a record. So, so this was going on at this particular point in time. As the president of Ukraine said loudly and boldly, and I appreciate his statement, he said it many times, there was no pressure. The foreign minister of Ukraine said there was absolutely no pressure, and that's the whole case right there. So there's no pressure whatsoever. So let me just move along. You can see this. You can go to the blog, to the goldfishreport.blogspot.com, and you can read this for yourselves. But these are just, I'm trying to pull out some of the main quotes from the president about some of the questions he was asked regarding vaping. He says vaping, the president said vaping is coming out. We're just going to be announcing it very shortly. Some people already know about what we're doing. We have to protect our families. At the same time, it's a big industry. We want to protect the industry. So definitely, you know, the president's position about this is to remove the flavoring, which is what attracts the kids, the children. So that's really, he says, we're going to protect our families. We'll be taking it off the flavors for a period of time, certain flavors. So things like that, which market directly to kids. So that's, as I was just saying. And you can, like I said, go ahead. He says here they're talking about, do you want there to be a trial in the Senate, or do you want there to be not to be a trial in the Senate? And he says, I really don't care. The president said it doesn't matter as far as I'm concerned. I'd be very happy with the trial because we did nothing wrong. Exactly. We didn't even have a witness. We won 196 to nothing. Okay, we didn't have a witness. That's all the Democrats witness. So it will be very interesting. Of course, this story will be updated in my next POTUS report. So I'll just leave it here for now, so I can go on the record and get this report out. So let's move along. Let me see. I'm sorry for scrolling. I'm going to do it as quick as I can so I can avoid it. The next press release was the presidential message on National Stalking Awareness Month. In case you didn't know about this, stalking, okay, National Stalking Awareness Month provides us with an opportunity to firmly rebuke the violating crime of stalking and to raise awareness about its warning signs. It is also an opportunity for us to come together as a nation to support those who have experienced stalking or harassment. So here, stalking comes in many different forms. I think this is important to mention and highlight, including making unsolicited, repetitive phone calls, sending unwanted letters or other items, and following victims or showing up at their workplace or homes. I'm sure there's more of a broader definition of this, or more specific, I should say, that more numeric, like there's probably more itemized terms and examples of stalking. This may or may not be completely inclusive. Um, those who have been targeted by a stalker know all too well the hopelessness and helplessness and fear that come from experiencing this abusive and invasive behavior. Okay, and sadly, that oftentimes, the police can't do anything until a crime has been committed. So that's why we need to keep our guns. That's why we need to keep our Second Amendment so that we can protect ourselves, because it's sometimes too late by the time the police come. Oftentimes it is. So stalking behavior is a manipulative tool used to extort control and incite fear, and victims can often feel isolated and vulnerable. So here, there's an information for you and a hotline and information where you can go if you feel like you've been stalked. But I think it's a good thing. We do need to increase our laws to include this. But again, we also need to protect our Second Amendment so that we can, deter some of this. That is really the whole point, personal protection, right? So here we have, again, on January 1st, presidential message on the National Biotechnology Month, where the United States has made remarkable advances in critical technology. We're talking about biotechnology, developing new ways to treat cancer, manufacture medicines, generate plastics, and provide America's farmers and ranchers the tools they need to help feed, fuel, and clothe the world's growing population, which he mentions here is expected to surpass 9 billion by 2050. I don't know about that. I think there's a lot of people dying off, so we have to account for attrition. Okay, so anyway, so this is interesting. Biotechnology, I think people need to pay attention to this. This is your government, I don't particularly think that GMO foods are, uh, they're not things I want to eat. So I think people need to be very careful about biotechnology when it comes to agriculture and making sure that we're not genetically engineering the nutrition out of the food for the sake of, making like for example, potatoes, they're genetically modified so that they repel the beetle, the one, I guess, enemy of the farmer is this beetle that feeds off of potatoes. So they destroy the crops. I understand that, but genetically modifying the food, there's just no long-term studies on the effects of those on humans. And it seems like they're moving first and you know studying and asking questions later. Or it could be possible there is research showing ill effects and perhaps it's being hidden. I don't know, but certainly it would be good for people to dig up and try to uncover that stuff. But in terms of other biotechnology, we're talking about cures for diseases and cures for uh, uh, really bad genetic defects and things like that. So I think that we should keep a close watch on that. Now, let's see, is this, yeah. So presidential message on the 50th anniversary of the National Environmental Policy Act. Yes, this was a big deal at the White House a few days ago. And of course, this was the 50th anniversary of this milestone legislation. And you can come here and take a look and read this. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. But this has to do with from commuting to work or school and turning on lights at home to having access to clean, reliable drinking water. The daily activities of all of our citizenry are affected by NEPA's requirements, which is the National Environmental excuse me, Policy Act. Many projects involving the construction of roads, bridges, highways, airports, transmission lines, conventional and renewable energy projects, broadband deployment, 5G is another issue we need to get into, and water infrastructure, as well as many, management activities on public lands such as grazing, forest management, wildfire protection, and environmental restoration projects must undergo federal environmental review before they can proceed. Sounds like a lot of red tape to me, actually. So I think that's it for the first. Of course, we have, it's not it actually. We have the presidential message on National Mentoring Month, where the president is really trying to encourage people to do things to help the younger, the youth of our society, and in different ways. There's different, methods. There's different organizations people can participate in if they feel like they want to do that, to be a faith or civic leader, all walks of life. People, it's always good to try to be a mentor to younger people, and help them really navigate this insane world that we're living in. Okay, so then I'm going to move on to, so that was the second didn't have any, January 2nd didn't have any, what do you call it, press releases. So January 3rd, and I'll screen share this one. We'll go through this real quick so I can get on to the next POTUS report. Okay, so we have the remarks by the president regarding the killing of Qasem Soleimani while he was at Mar-a-Lago, Palm Beach, Florida. I'm just going to, I think everybody's heard a lot about this, but let me just make a few things clear what the president's position was. Soleimani was plotting imminent and sinister attacks on American diplomats and military personnel, but we caught him in the act and terminated him. Under my leadership, America's policy is unambiguous. To terrorists who harm or intend to harm any American, we will find you, we will eliminate you. We will always protect our diplomats, service members, all Americans, and our allies. For years, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps and its ruthless Quds Force, under Soleimani's leadership, have targeted, injured, and murdered hundreds of American civilians and servicemen. The recent attacks on U.S. targets in Iraq, including rocket strikes that killed an American and injured 4 American servicemen very badly, as well as a violent assault on our embassy in Baghdad, were carried out at the direction of Soleimani. Okay, Soleimani made the death of innocent people his sick passion, contributing to terrorist plots as far away as New Delhi and London. Basically, he says this should have been done a long time ago. basically. That's what the president has said. He says, I have deep respect for the Iranian people. They are a remarkable people with an incredible heritage and unlimited potential. We do not seek regime change. However, the Iranian regime's aggression in the region, including the use of proxy fighters to destabilize its neighbors, must end. And it must end now. The future belongs to the people of Iran, those who seek peaceful coexistence and cooperation, not the terrorist warlords who plunder their nation to finance bloodshed abroad. Okay, so you can go to the blog and take a look at this for yourselves. Okay. Again, the president is keeping up with his filling these cabinet positions. He had announced the intent to nominate individuals to certain key administration posts. Richard Mills of Texas to be Deputy Representative of the United States of America to the United Nations. We have C.J. Mahoney of Kansas to be legal advisor at the Department of State. Okay, and of course, 4 other nominations were sent to the Senate, and you know that the president is working very hard to reconstruct the judiciary and to nominate judges who are going to uphold the Constitution, unlike what's happening in Virginia, might I add. In terms of these communities that are trying to force gun bans, which is completely unconstitutional. They're really out of their mind if they think they're going to get away with that. But let's move along. So Andrew Brasher of Alabama to be United States Circuit Judge for the 11th Circuit. We have Joshua Kindred of Alaska to be United States District Judge for the District of Alaska. We have Matthew Shelp of Missouri to be United States District Judge for the District of Missouri, and Stephen Vaden of Tennessee to be Judge of the United States Court of International Trade. So just note that, because they're not all federal courts. This is an international court. There are several other judges that the president has nominated to other international courts. This might be one of them as well. So I wanted to bring that to your attention. Okay, and then now we're going to go on to, well, late at night, sometimes very late at night, the White House will post a press release that I won't post until the following morning. So this is one of them, and this is on the record press call by the National Security Advisor, Ambassador Robert O'Brien, on recent events in Iraq. So look, you can read this, go to the, by all means, go to the blog, take a look at all of this. These are just more remarks about what had happened. Ambassador O'Brien has said this has been an important couple of days for the United States and for the world. As you know, from having seen President Trump and having heard from Secretary Pompeo and the Department of State, the president directed the United States military to carry out a decisive operation against the terrorist leader Solomani in order to protect American personnel. This was designed to prevent further bloodshed. This was a defensive action. Okay, so go and take a look at this and all the detail and all the questions. Again, they keep listing the statistics of there's at least over 600 Americans that were killed with these explosives, IEDs, that were used in Iraq on a regular basis. And look, folks, I mean, look at our service members who come home in boxes and come home missing limbs. Of course they're being used there. So, you know, I'd like to see, these servicemen be interviewed and let them tell you what it was like having their limbs blown off over there and who was doing it. So, I mean, even if the pretense for us being there was questionable or even wrong, I think, the troops didn't know that at the time. Troops may know it now, but um, nonetheless, we got to fix the problems. So America is dedicated to fixing the problems and helping Iraq rebuild. And uh, killing our servicemen is not going to help rebuild their country. So I'm not saying it's right what we did, and that's not what this is about. But there were definitely bad mistakes made by previous administrations, as you all know. So. Okay, so now I'm going to, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to scroll really quick. Sometimes these transcripts are very, very long, very hard to get through. Now, on January 4th, of course, we have the GoldFIsh Report Geopolitics Update with members of the Dragon Societies. And You can look at that here. This is a geopolitics update, and you know, these are people with different various opinions about the world events, but it's not a very long interview, so you might want to go there and check that out. And another on the record press call regarding events in Iraq. So you can go here and take a look. I think this is because this is almost a week ago. It's probably old news by now, but nonetheless, I wanted to get it on the record and make sure that we are reporting, you know, all of our keeping up to date with the holiday time for our POTUS reports, because folks, that's week 154 POTUS report. And we have never missed a POTUS report since President Trump was inaugurated, not 1 week. So this one was delayed because it was very slow getting information out of the White House this year. But we covered it anyway. So we will be coming back with the POTUS report for the following week. And that's it. And so folks, please subscribe if you don't subscribe, because we're really being manipulated on YouTube, and we would really appreciate making sure you subscribe to the channel, and also making sure you click that like button. That will help us circulate the reports a little bit more. And also, if you want to help support the GoldFish Report, it is a public service that we provide. You can go to thegoldfishreport.com. There's a PayPal there, and we would appreciate viewers supporting. If you feel the content provides you some sort of quality and there's value, then please show your support by making a donation or becoming a Patreon. You can become a Patreon and, you know, do micro donating and micro fundraising, and it's really a great way to help. So having said that, I want to thank you all for viewing, and this concludes this edition of the GoldFish Report.